Hi there, Lincoln owners. Today in your 2019 Lincoln Nautilus, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Roadmaster's diode wiring kit. This kit's available in several configurations depending on the type of wiring that you're going to want to use to connect your motorhome to your vehicle. We're using a 7 to 6 round and a coiled option, but there's also a hybrid, which is coiled on one end and is straight on the other. That's nice if you're using an extension like this, but you have a tow bar that has channels for your wiring, such as Roadmaster's Falcon all-terrain. If you don't need the extra coiled end on the end, but you have channels, there's just a straight option available as well. And then you could use just a 4-pole on your vehicle. You don't have to have a 6-pole. 6-pole is what I recommend for additional accessories that you might want to add. And if you have a Nautilus here, you're going to want that because there's a lot of extra stuff you need for your Nautilus to work. But there is a 4-pole option here and 4 flat that you could get, as well as one that's 4 round to 7. The 4 flats mainly if you don't have a 7-way on your motorhome, you can just use the 4. This one is if you have a 4 in the vehicle, you can use the 7 on your motorhome. You can also get it with no cable whatsoever, and this is really useful if maybe you've just bought a new vehicle and you're preparing that new one for flat tow, but you're going to reuse a lot of your other parts that you were using in your previous flat tow. Now, regardless of which kit you get, they're going to function the same here at the back. Our diodes will install behind our assemblies to where they'll go in line with the signals from our vehicle that go to the lights here at the back, and the diodes will go splice in between the wiring and act as a one-way check valve. We'll also add in our wires from our motorhome, run those to those diodes, and what that will allow us to do is get signals from the motorhome, transfer to the lights here at the back of the vehicle, but that check valve will prevent it from backfeeding and affecting any of the wiring on our vehicle. The diode will also let the factory wiring pass through and go to the lights, so when you're not hooked up and driving around, everything's going to work like normal. This is my preferred setup because once you got it installed, you simply plug it in at the front and you've got everything done. I've got my turn signal on here and you can see that it's going to mimic at the back of our Nautilus here. We've got left turn at the motorhome and we have left turn back here as well. And we're going to get all of our lighting signals here at our vehicle, which includes our left turn signal, right turn signal, tail lamps, and brake lamps, which will keep us DOT compliant in all states. There's 5 main components you'll need when flat towing your vehicle behind your motorhome. You'll need your tow bar, which is the connection between your motorhome and your vehicle. You'll need your safety cables, which is a supplemental connection in addition to your tow bar. You'll also need your base plate, which is your connection point for your tow bar on your vehicle. You'll need your diode wiring, which will take all the lighting signals from your motorhome and send them to the lights at the back of your vehicle. And lastly, you'll need your supplemental braking system, which will apply the brakes in your vehicle when you hit the brakes in your motorhome to help you come to a safe stop. Now, a couple additional components you're going to want for your Nautilus here in order to complete your flat tow setup is a battery disconnect. You can get that from Roadmaster here at eTrailer, and then it's important for when setting up your braking system and making the whole thing work, being able to put it into flat tow. And you'll also need a stoplight switch, which is also important for your braking system, making all those components work together. You can get that from Roadmaster here as well. Diode wiring is my preferred option for getting your lighting signals to the back of your vehicle. Some other options are a bulb and socket kit, which would require you to drill a hole into your assembly and add an additional bulb. This is not really going to work in most cases for most modern vehicles that have LED assemblies because there's no room inside for a bulb. Another option would be magnetic lighting, where you simply stick magnetic lights onto the top of your roof. Those work out great. The only problem that I have with those is that you have to set them up every single time you want to flat tow. You got to get them out, put them on top, run the wires down to the front, and then hook up. With this system, it's so much easier. You're just plugging in that cable there at the front. Now that we've gone over some of the features of our diode wiring, why don't you follow along with me in the shop and we'll show you how to get it installed. You do want to keep in mind that you're going to need an additional set of 2 diodes for your Nautilus, and we'll show you why. We'll begin our installation by taking our wiring here. We're going to go ahead and attach it to our 6-way. I've taken the wires and just routed them up to the engine compartment there so we can route those back at a later step. So we're going to go ahead and take our dust boot here. This is going to slide over our wires. And depending on the wiring kit that you purchased, you may have a 4-pole flat connector end on there. And in most cases, you're going to be cutting that off and replacing it with a 6-way, just like we are here. So now we've got our dust boot on there. We can take our connector here. We're going to loosen up each of the pins here at the back. Now, for just the diode wiring, you're going to need the ones labeled GD for ground. We're going to start there. That's our white wire. Next is S. This one you're not going to use in your diode wiring. However, we are going to use it with our braking system for our indicator lights. I'll go ahead and open that up. Next is TM. That's our tail light signal. That's the brown wire. And then the center pin you're not going to use as well unless you have additional accessories. Our customer purchased a charge line kit, so we'll be using the center pin for his charge line. We'll then take each wire, we're going to push it in the end with the appropriate label for the color. So that was GD, that was ground for our white wire. Next to our ground we have LT, that's our yellow wire for left turn. Put that one in, and then after that's going to be RT, which is right turn, that's our green wire. We'll then want to put a generous amount of dielectric grease on the back of our connector there. That's going to help seal it up against moisture to prevent corrosion. We can then slide our dust boot on top to help seal all that in, and then to help keep our dust boot in place and further seal it up, we'll take electrical tape and wrap it around it on both the front and back side of the boot there to keep it on. We'll then secure our connector using the hardware provided with our base plate and attach it right to the mounting point on our base plate. After routing the wires up here towards our engine compartment, we routed them around our air box here. You can see them here where they run next to the battery. Now you will notice that there's some splices here on our diode wiring. The reason we routed it up into the engine compartment next to the battery here is because your braking system in most cases needs to tap into your diode wiring for the system to work properly. So that's why we routed it up here, so we were able to tap our braking system in here. And then we just continue to on by routing it back down the firewall and towards the rear of the vehicle. Our diode wiring comes down the firewall there, and we just route it back right here. That's our braking system wires that you see right there coming out. This is the actual diode wiring here. And it goes back, and we just stay above this panel all the way back to the fuel tank. Once we hit the fuel tank here, we wrap around the side of the fuel tank. You can zip tie it to that factory wiring there. When we go above this plastic panel, and we stay above this plastic panel till we come out the back of the fuel tank here. From here we go up above the rear suspension, zip tying it to any factory wiring along the way. And then it comes out here on the other side of our suspension. Now once we get it back here, we separate out the white wire, and we actually cut off just a little section because we attached it with a self-tapping screw and a ring terminal, which comes in our kit right here into the frame. To do this, we just simply, again, we just took about 6 inches maybe of that white wire there, cut it off, stripped it, crimped on the ring terminal, and ran it in. The rest of our white wire, we are going to be using that to finish the rest of our installation here, so make sure you save the rest of that white wire. So now we're going to be hooking up our diodes. There is an undershield here. I just pulled this off. It was just 2 nuts on the studs here, and then a couple of push pins where it attaches to the fender liner there. And we were able to pull that down out of our way, and that'll reveal the wiring here where it goes up. We pulled out the taillight assembly, and there's just not enough room back there for all the diodes that we need, because you actually have to purchase additional diodes to make this system work properly, because your Nautilus here will go to sleep as you're driving down the road. So we have to add an additional diode to this setup to keep our taillights active here when we're flat towing. So due to that, we had to tap into them down here where we have more access and where we can easily get these in. That's not going to interfere with the operation of our vehicle. So you can see here where our harness goes up. That's where you'll want to cut it open, and we're going to be pulling out 3 wires from out of there. There's a lot of wires in there, but the main ones that we need to remove from there, over here on the driver's side, is a violet wire, and you can see it's a bit of a thicker, larger violet wire. We'll also need a yellow wire with a green stripe and a violet wire with a green stripe. Once you've separated out those 3 wires, you'll take those 3 wires and you're just going to cut them in half. Once you cut them in half, you're going to take the spade terminals that come in your kit. You'll strip each of those wires you just cut in half, and you're going to crimp on a spade terminal onto each one of those. Once you do so, you can simply plug your diode in line between each of those. You'll notice that once you do that, the output, which is going up here towards our light, that's always going to be the single terminal side, and here where it comes out of the bottom of our vehicle there, that's always going to be the 2-prong side. That'll leave us with an additional prong for each of those diodes that we can attach our wires to that we had run back here. On the driver's side here, we need the brown wire and the yellow wire, and we're going to be using some of that extra white wire to jumper the brown wire signal over to the passenger side. The green wire you can route just straight over to the passenger side. We're going to go ahead and get these connected here. So you'll see that the yellow wire, I put one of the spade terminals on, and slid it on to the diode that has the yellow wire with the green stripe, because that's our stop signal. The taillight signal is the purple wire with the green stripe, so the brown wire is our taillight feed that we routed back here. So we take the yellow spade terminal that comes in our kit, and we also add some of that extra white wire that we've got left into that spade terminal, and then we attach that to the diode here. The rest of the white wire that's coming out of this spade terminal gets routed over towards the passenger side. But you'll also notice here that I did cut that white wire, and we took another small splice here and added this in. This way, when we turn our taillights on, it's going to power up the modules here at the back. So as long as we have our taillights on in our motorhome, that's going to ensure that our taillights here on our Nautilus are going to stay powered up and operating. And this way, when we disconnect from our motorhome, they're no longer going to be powered up, so we don't have to worry about our vehicle's battery draining down. So that white wire here, we just crimp to a spade terminal here, and then we slide it on to the wire that is the purple wire here. We used a heat shrink butt connector when we connected these two white wires together. You can get heat shrink butt connectors here at eTrailer. Now, the rest of our wiring, we need to get over to the passenger side, is our green wire, and the rest of the white wire that's coming out of this yellow spade terminal here. So you can see they route above the bumper beam here. Towards the middle here is where we zip tie it, just to keep the wiring suspended. And here you can see that it's just the white and the green wires that are actually going towards the passenger side there. The rest of them, they're actually going up towards the front there, where we had routed them from. They're going to come out over here on the passenger side, and over here it's going to be a pretty similar story. We're still going to separate out the violet wire and the yellow wire with the green stripe. The difference on this side, though, is our taillight circuit is now a white wire with an orange stripe. We cut those wires the same way, put spade terminals on them, and attach them the same way, with the wiring going up towards our taillight here is the single side of our diodes, and the double side is going to be coming out of the vehicle here. The wires that we run over, the green wire is going to connect to the yellow wire with the green stripe right into that diode there with its own spade terminal, because that's our passenger turn signal. The white wire here, you can see we did split this off into two because this is our taillight signal. We need to send it to the orange with the white wire with the orange stripe, because that is our taillight circuit for our lights. And again, this purple wire here is going to keep our system awake for us, so our taillights can go over here and power this up to keep that system alive while we're going down the road. Once we make all those connections, we zip tie everything up and try and clean up our harness down here. Then we can reinstall our panels and go up front and test everything out. We can now test it out. You're going to need to plug into your motorhome in order to do so, and you'll also need to turn on your taillights. It's required for the other signals to operate. So you can see we've got our taillights working. Also verify you have your left turn signal, your right turn signal, as well as your stop lamps. With all of our lights working properly, we're ready to connect our vehicle to our motorhome and hit the road. And that completes our look at Roadmaster's diode wiring kit on our 2019 Lincoln Nautilus.